Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Wrong Order. I used to manage a high-volume single-location restaurant in the Bay Area. I was assistant manager there, front of house. We had a chef at the time who was extremely hard-headed, even by chef standards. He made mistakes all the time, but always had an excuse and never wanted any criticism. I was in charge of ordering for the front of house and bar, and he was in charge of ordering for the kitchen. We ordered a lot of things from the same supplier, so we could see each other's items in the order before it got finalized. One day I went through the order to see if I missed any of what I needed. I noticed there are 20 cases of red onions. We don't carry red onions, but frequently order small quantities of things for private events with specific menu items. I assumed he meant 20 red onions, so I called him up to clarify before changing it. Hey, I think you added too many onions to the order. It should be, why are you telling me what I need? You don't know what I need. I know what I need. Leave it alone and don't call me on my day off. Click. Cue Malicious Compliance. He's off Sunday and Monday. This is Sunday. I leave it alone and the order auto-submits for next day delivery. Since deliveries come in Monday morning, the person who signs for it is usually a prep cook, not anyone in a decision-making role. So I know that the 20 cases will very likely be accepted, since the kitchen staff knows not to bother the chef on his days off. I roll in around 1 PM to close, and there are 20 cases of onions just packed anywhere there's room. Each case, for context, is about 2 by 1 by 1. It's ridiculous. I say nothing and continue running the shift. My general manager was upset when he finds out we had 20 cases of an ingredient we don't carry, when in fact my intuition was correct and we needed about 20 onions for a private event later that week. Chef never said a word about it to me, but he's not a chef there anymore, which is for the best. The next story is called Fix My Issue. For context, I work in IT. I don't deal with general computer problems. I'm an expert in a complicated program at work. Almost every department in my work uses this program. When bugs and/or issues are found, I do my best to fix them myself. If I can fix it, then I forward the issue to our vendor who manages the program for us. Taking new versions of this program is a big deal. We just don't take it. We install the new version in a non-production environment, and every department must test it and sign off on it. This process can take 1 to 2 months to complete. Now enter the Karen of the story. Dealing with her has always been an issue. She always gives me crap for bugging her when I have questions. I thought it was personal, but I asked other people in IT about her, and they confirmed that she is always a pain to deal with. We were 1 day away from taking an upgrade. This upgrade was important, as it had new features that were needed for new clients, plus several extremely needed bug fixes. This is after we went through testing and got signed off from every department to take the version. Of course, Karen opens up a helpdesk ticket on the new version. It's a big enough issue to cancel the upgrade. Submitted literally in the final hour. Needless to say, even the higher-ups were mad, and I got huge pressure to submit this to our vendors ASAP. The helpdesk ticket stated the issue, and at the bottom of the ticket was this sentence: "You may not contact me about this issue. There will be no messaging me, calling me, emailing me, or standing next to my desk." So I reviewed the ticket, and can you guess what the issue was? User error. Since I couldn't talk to her about it, I went straight to the higher-ups. The same people pressuring me to submit the issue. I told them the problem, and that I wasn't allowed to contact her about it. They said they would take care of it. About an hour later, Karen comes sheepishly to my desk. This was the nicest I have ever seen her. I pointed out the issue to her, and she said she would review it. 5 minutes later, I got a message from her saying to close the ticket. The upgrade then proceeded as planned. This happened several years ago. I wish I could say she got fired for this little stunt, but that didn't happen. However, I got the next best thing. She was no longer in charge of testing. In fact, I haven't gotten a single helpdesk ticket from her since. The last story is called New Top Priority. I worked at a small AV company. We dealt with thousands of NEC displays every year, and management had absolutely no idea how to deal with the race from each job. mainly polystyrene. The company hired a new general manager, Martin his name. He worked with me for 2 months. At this job I ran many roles as it was a small company. I was busy all day every day with warehouse management, PC configuration, /IT support, and also working in accounts with purchasing and ordering stock, etc. My pay didn't even cover warehouse management, let alone any of the other jobs. Martin decided to email me with a request on how I should manage the job that I had been working at for 5+ years and knew like the back of my hand. Martin's top priority in the email was cutting the polystyrene into small squares to save space in the bins. I emailed Martin back to explain that if I'm standing there cutting polystyrene cubes into small squares, then most of my work time would be spent doing that. This would leave no time for anything else. He replied by saying that it should still be the top priority on my things to do, so I took that literally. Nothing got done. No stock orders, no kit preparation, no deliveries, and no PC builds. I couldn't fetch anything down from the racks on the forklift. I was the only one trained to do so. Absolutely nothing was done apart from cutting polystyrene into small cubes. Martin even brought in his own saw from home to help me save time cutting this polystyrene up. 2 days went by. I had cut over 100+ blocks of polystyrene into small squares to save room in the bin. Everything in the company was falling apart and Martin came down in a panic. Nothing had been done, like I said, as I didn't have the time if I cut the polystyrene into small squares. I ended up having an argument with Martin in the warehouse, asking about why the absolute heck am I cutting polystyrene into small squares. Martin said it was to save money on buying skips. I pointed out that they have paid me more than an extra collection over 2 days of cutting the polystyrene up. He walked off. A day later I received an email from my other manager, who was higher up than Martin, which basically said I have a disciplinary meeting at lunchtime that day. My reply was obviously no. I needed time to prepare what I was going to say and make them push it back a week. I collected statements on my work from all my colleagues that were willing. Some even confronted Martin and called him an idiot, which, quite rightly, he was. I collected my year's work, every job, every PC configuration, every order, every delivery, every kit prep, etc. Everything was piled into 6 folders of stuff to throw at them. I had my disciplinary meeting and threw everything at them, and they were absolutely speechless with all the stuff I was doing. And that I had been told to prioritize cutting freaking polystyrene into small cubes to save on bin space. When asked if I had any questions, I asked one that shut them up instantly. What risk assessment was carried out before asking an employee to cut up bonded polystyrene and what PPE was provided? I have a recording of the meeting, and every single manager sat there in silence. My question went unanswered, and one said, "We'll answer that in our report," which I never received. Martin was made redundant soon after. He was asked to drop his work equipment by me at the office. He sent it with a courier instead. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.